Story 1.
It all started with a curiosity I should have never fed. I was browsing Reddit one night, just scrolling through random threads, when I stumbled upon a post asking people to share the weirdest, most disturbing things they had found on the deep web. It intrigued me. I mean, who wouldn't be curious about the hidden corners of the internet, right? The post mentioned a browser called Tor that could give you access to the deep web, and I thought, why not? So, I downloaded Tor, thinking I'd just browse and see what's out there. But nothing could have prepared me for what happened next. The first few links were like a strange alternate universe. Some of them were harmless, even educational. But then, I clicked on a link that led me to a site that had a bunch of pages titled The Black Pages. It was eerie. The whole website was dark, with bright red and yellow links scattered across it. But the red links, those were the ones that caught my eye. One link in particular stood out: Personal Assassin. My stomach churned. I didn't click on it. But the next one was equally bizarre: Dead Pets. I could already feel the weight of something dark pulling me in, but I tried to stay calm, telling myself not to click on any more of these twisted links. But then I saw a yellow link that seemed almost inviting. It was called The Secret Society Chat. My heart pounded as I clicked it. The page took forever to load, longer than any of the others, and I stared at the blank white screen, my mind racing. But then, out of nowhere, the screen turned black. A chat box popped up, and a small video window appeared next to it. I was already in too deep, but I couldn't turn back now. So, I typed "Hey" into the chat box. What happened next, I will never forget. A face appeared on the screen, masked and sitting in a dark room. And then, something happened that made my blood run cold. My own face appeared on the screen. I froze. How was that even possible? I quickly realized that the website had somehow turned on my webcam. But I was sure I had it off. I covered the camera with my thumb, but my heart was racing. I tried to close the window, but the taskbar was gone. The minimize and close buttons at the top of the screen, gone. I couldn't exit. Then I heard it. A voice, muffled and distorted, coming from the speakers. The man in the mask was speaking, his voice warped by some kind of voice changer, but I could still make out what he said. "I still see you, James." My heart sank. How did he know my name? In a panic, I pressed and held the power button on my laptop, praying that it would turn off. It felt like an eternity before the screen went black, but the damage was done. I sat there, frozen, trying to process what had just happened. Was I being hacked? Was this some sick joke? I deleted Tor right after that. One afternoon, my mom threw a letter on my bed. She told me it was for me. There was no return address. I opened it, my hands trembling, and pulled out the note inside. In huge, bold letters, it said, "Don't come back." I couldn't breathe. I felt like I was going to throw up. That sick feeling in the pit of my stomach came back, stronger than ever. I crumpled up the note and threw it away, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I didn't tell my mom. I couldn't. It would only make her panic, and I didn't even know who or what was behind all of this. But I'll never forget that feeling of being hunted, of knowing someone, something, was out there, watching me. And to this day, I wonder if it was ever really over.
Story 2.
I thought I knew what to expect when I first ventured into the deep web. I had heard the stories, disturbing videos, shady marketplaces, but nothing could have prepared me for what I stumbled upon. One night, I was deep in the rabbit hole, scrolling through links I shouldn't have been looking at. I had heard about a site called Human Experiments, and for some reason, I clicked. I don't even remember where I found it. It was buried so deep in a link archive. But the moment I saw the homepage, I knew I had made a huge mistake. The text on the page was written in a chilling red, bloody font. It said, "The experiments conducted on this site are meant to prove that not all humans are born equal." And then, it went on to describe how the victims were chosen. Homeless people, the unfortunate souls who somehow became prey to these sick individuals. The so-called experiments were horrific: starvation, extreme pain, infections, diseases. And the worst part? It included infants. The site claimed to test infant tolerance to things like X-rays, extreme heat, and pain. I thought I was ready for what I might see. After all, I had watched videos like 3 Guys, 1 Hammer before. But trust me, nothing prepared me for this. I clicked on the first link and what I saw made me want to puke. I don't want to describe it in detail, but imagine the worst thing you could ever imagine. And that was just the beginning. Innocent people, just like you and me, being subjected to unimaginable horrors. I didn't want to look, but I scrolled down. It only got worse. Then, I saw it. A whole section dedicated to infants and toddlers. I thought I was going to lose it. I had somehow made it to the bottom of the page when a pop-up box appeared on the screen. It wasn't clear at first, but then a line of text popped up asking, "Did you enjoy the site?" I froze. It was a chat box. I typed, "Who is this?" The stranger avoided my question and instead asked, "What was your favorite part of the site?" I asked again. This time the response was different. The stranger told me he was the site owner. I was sickened. I told him that what he was doing was sick, inhumane, and that I would report the site to the authorities. That was my biggest mistake. There was a long pause before the response came. "I see your name is Michael and you live in Massachusetts." I couldn't believe it. He was right. My heart dropped. Instead of closing the browser, I typed back, "No, you're wrong." 10 seconds later, he typed something that made my blood run cold. He typed my full, correct home address. His last words on the screen were, "Have a nice day." I slammed my laptop shut, but it was too late. I was terrified. I immediately called the police before even telling my parents. When the officers arrived, I explained everything to them. They wanted to see.
The cops told us that if what I was saying was true, we needed to find somewhere else to stay. Fast. And just like that, we started planning to move. It wasn't long before my parents sold the house and found a new one. I apologized to them every single day for making them go through that, but deep down, I couldn't take the chance. I'll never know if that guy was bluffing, but I couldn't risk it. So, if you're ever tempted to explore the deep web, I'm telling you now, don't do it. There's nothing good there, and you might just find yourself in a nightmare you can't wake up from.
Story 3.
This all started with a website that everyone knew about, the Silk Road. If you were looking for anything illegal, this underground marketplace had it. People talked about it all the time, and my friends had even used it. Our weed dealer was moving out of state, and he was the only person I knew who could get me what I wanted. So I figured, why not give the Silk Road a shot? I downloaded Tor, accessed the site, and started browsing. As expected, the biggest seller on there was cannabis. I figured I'd play it safe and leave a comment on one of the listings, asking if the deal was legit. An hour later, I checked my messages, and there it was, a reply from a user named Illy B. He said he could sell me an ounce for a ridiculously low price, but only if we did the deal locally. Now, I've done local deals before, and they've always gone smoothly. So I told him I was in Washington. Turns out, he lived only about an hour away. That's when he said something that threw me off. He'd just meet me in my hometown. I couldn't believe my luck. This guy was willing to drive all the way out to me. I told him to meet me in the parking lot of a Wendy's nearby. But then things started to get a little weird. He asked for my address and who I lived with. That felt off, so I lied and said I lived alone. Not long after, he sent me a text saying he'd found a better place for the deal, behind an old, closed-down retail store at the edge of town. Now my instincts were kicking in. Something didn't sit right, but I was desperate to get that weed, so I agreed. I drove over there, and when I arrived, there was no one in sight. I waited in the car, but after 20 minutes of no response, I started to feel uneasy. Something wasn't right. So I decided to leave and drive home. But when I pulled into the driveway, something was wrong. The front door was open. I knew I had shut it before leaving. Was my mom home early? I rushed inside, and that's when I heard it. A noise coming from upstairs. Shuffling. I yelled out for my mom and dad, but the noises stopped. Then the door to their bedroom slammed shut. My heart raced as I realized something was wrong. My dad's car wasn't in the driveway, and no one was answering. In a panic, I grabbed a carving knife from the kitchen and ran upstairs. I almost broke the door down in my hurry. But when I got inside, I saw something that made my blood run cold. My mom's jewelry box was open. I didn't see anyone, but I knew right away someone had been there. I grabbed the phone from my parents' room and called 911, but before I could say anything, something grabbed my leg from under the bed. I didn't even think. I stabbed down with the knife, and the man under the bed screamed in agony. He wasn't done though. He crawled out, the knife still lodged in his arm. He didn't look at me once. He just bolted for the door. I stayed on the phone with 911, but there wasn't much I could do. I couldn't leave the room with the corded phone. The man ran straight out of the house and jumped into a black Honda Accord. I did my best to describe him to the police. Tall, black man, wearing a backwards hat and ragged clothes, but I couldn't tell them everything. I couldn't bring up the Silk Road, and I didn't know how he got my address. I only had one theory. He had somehow hacked me, found my personal info, and tracked me down. I have no idea if they ever caught him, but that guy is still out there somewhere. And to this day, I wonder if that Silk Road deal was the reason my life almost ended that night. Please, don't forget to like and subscribe. And remember, the darkness is always surrounding us, just waiting for a chance. Thanks for watched. See you next story.